Good morning, students. We are here today to go through a few slides to help you prepare for the upcoming year's exams and assignments. The following slides will help you understand certain concepts better, and yes, let's see how it goes. So, when starting a new paragraph, what do we need to take into mind when we start a new paragraph? When starting a new paragraph, the first thing is you need to begin it to state a new idea or point. New ideas should always start in new paragraphs. If you have an extended idea that spans multiple paragraphs, each new point within that idea should have its own paragraph. It also when we talk about paragraphs, it's to contrast information or ideas. Separate paragraphs can serve to contrast sides in a debate, different points in an argument, or any other differences. When your reader needs a pause, that's when you would start a new paragraph. Breaks between paragraphs function as a short break for your readers. Adding these in will help to make your writing more readable. You would create a break if the paragraph becomes too long or the material is complex. Also, to consider when to start a new paragraph is when you are ending your introduction or starting your conclusion. Remember, any writing should have an introductory paragraph and a concluding paragraph, no matter what. What are the advantages of using phrases and clauses in English? The use of phrases and clauses is part of the grammatical characteristics of good language usage, whether in speech or in writing. There are a number of issues which we should keep in mind when considering which and how to use phrases and clauses in sentences. The length of clauses within the sentence. You need to pay attention to that. You need to pay attention to the arrangement of clauses. Should it be clear and not contribute to ambiguity? Good writing lies in the skillful use of clauses within longer sentences in such a way that the meaning is clearly expressed, the connection between main and dependent clauses are still clear, and the relation between clauses is also clear. To keep sentence construction clear, forceful, and brief, use phrases instead of clauses wherever possible. For example, having written the book, she sent it to the publisher, rather than after she had written the book, she sent it to the publisher. Difference between a phrase and a clause. If you're unsure whether a group of words is a clause or a phrase, break down the words into the parts of speech to help you decide. If there is a subject and a verb within a predicate, it is a clause. For example, she danced. She is the subject. Dance is both the verb and the predicate. If there is a noun but no verb, or a verb but no noun and does not have a predicate, it is a phrase. The dance was held at the reception hall. At the reception hall is a prepositional phrase. It does not have a subject or a predicate, and it cannot stand alone as a sentence. You get different types of clauses. You might be expected to identify within sentences types of clauses in your exams. So you need to know the different types, you need to know their definitions, and you need to look at different examples. These ones will be mentioned, but you need to also go and look for more examples. The relative clauses. A relative clause begins with a relative pronoun and functions as an adjective. The ceremony, which several celebrities attended, received widespread media coverage. Noun clauses. A noun clause functions as a noun in a sentence. For example, a vacation is what I need most. Adverbial clauses. Many subordinate clauses begin with subordinating conjunctions. When Mauna Loa began erupting and spewing lava into the air, we drove away as quickly as we could. Subordinate clauses. A subordinate clause has a subject and a verb, but unlike an independent clause, cannot stand by itself. Since it will rain today, It is the subject, will rain is the verb, but you can't use it as a sentence. You have 3 classes associated with dimension and prepositions. Prepositions differ according to the number of dimensions they refer to. The 3 dimensions are point, surface, area, and volume. For point, the prepositions in this group indicate that the noun that follows them is treated as a point in relation to which other object is positioned. For example, they stayed away from the cinema. Away from is the point. Surface. Prepositions in this group indicate that the position of an object is defined with respect to a surface on which it rests. The book was on the shelf. So on, where was it? On. That's the surface. Area or volume. Prepositions in this group indicate that an object lies within the boundaries of an area or within the confines of a volume. They lived in Manhattan, and in is the preposition of area. When we look at direct speech, there are 4 rules we need to look at. The first one, the quotation. What has been said? It is enclosed in inverted commas. Direct speech always will have inverted commas. The narrative part of the sentence is always separated from the spoken part of the sentence with a comma. So you will always find a comma. When the speech is interrupted and then resumed, you don't need a capital letter to restart the quotation. When the quotation comes at the end of the narrative, the full stop, question mark, or exclamation mark comes before the inverted comma. Now, in this slide, I broke up the definition of a sentence in shorter, simpler bullet points. So, summing up the definition of a sentence would be, it's a set of words that is complete in itself. It typically contains a subject and a predicate. It conveys a statement, question, exclamation, or a command. And within that bullet point, that's where the different types of sentences could be explained. It consists of main clause and possibly one or more subordinate clauses. It is the largest independent unit of grammar. It begins with a capital letter and ends with a full stop, question mark, or exclamation mark. Traditionally defined as a word or group of words that expresses a complete idea and that includes a subject and a verb. What are the general rules regarding prepositions? It is allowed to end a sentence with a preposition. The dress had not even been paid for. For is the preposition. You're allowed to use it like that. A preposition is followed by a noun. Nobody seems to have responsibility for the budget. Responsibility is the noun, for is the preposition. A preposition is never followed by a verb. She was hiding, that's the verb, under the table. So the preposition comes after the verb. It is allowed to begin a sentence with a preposition or a prepositional phrase, but be very careful when you do so. On Monday, we will begin the new program. Depends how you use it, but be careful. The subject of the sentence can never be part of a prepositional phrase, and a verb can never be part of a prepositional phrase. What is a paragraph? A paragraph is a collection of related sentences dealing with a single topic. Highlight single topic. Will help you as a writer stay on track during your drafting and revision stages. Assist your readers in following a piece of writing. You can have fantastic ideas, but if those ideas aren't presented in an organized fashion, you will lose your readers and fail to achieve your goals in writing. Elements of a paragraph. These slides are quite important because you could be asked to explain with detail the elements of a paragraph. The first one is unity. The entire paragraph should concern itself with a single focus. If it begins with one focus or major point of discussion, it should not end with another or wander within different ideas. Second one is coherence. Coherence is the trait that makes the paragraph easily understandable to the reader. You can help create coherence in your paragraphs by creating logical bridges and verbal bridges. What are logical bridges? The same idea of a topic is carried over from sentence to sentence. Successive sentences can be constructed in parallel form. Verbal bridges. Keywords can be presented in several sentences. Synonymous words could be repeated in several sentences. Pronouns can refer to nouns in previous sentences. Transition words can be used to link ideas from different sentences. The third one is the topic sentence. A topic sentence is a sentence that indicates in a general way what idea or thesis the paragraph is going to deal with. Although not all paragraphs have clear-cut topic sentences, and despite the fact that topic sentences can occur anywhere in the paragraph, as the first sentence, the last sentence, or somewhere in the middle, an easy way to make sure your reader understands the topic of the paragraph is to put your topic sentence near the beginning of the paragraph. So, even though within writing it's not always clear the topic sentence or where you could find it, this is just a tip. When you do write paragraphs or you write an essay, focus or try to let your topic sentence remain at the beginning. Then it would be easier for your reader to follow and to understand. And then the fourth point would be adequate development. The topic, which is introduced by the topic sentence, should be discussed fully and adequately, meaning with detail. Again, this varies from paragraph to paragraph, depending on the author's purpose, but writers should be wary of paragraphs that only have 2 or 3 sentences. It's a pretty good bet that the paragraph is not fully developed if it is that short. Periodic sentence. The term periodic sentence is used to refer to a complex sentence beginning with a dependent clause and ending with an independent clause, as in, while he waited at the train station, Joe realized that the train was late. Periodic sentences can be especially effective because the complete thought occurs at the end of it. So the first part of the sentence can build up to the meaning that comes at the end. Without it, it would not be clear what's going on. So you need both. What is denotation? Denotation, generally defined as literal or dictionary meanings of a word in contrast to its connotative or associated meanings. For example, if you search for meaning of the word dove in a dictionary, you will see that its meaning is a type of pigeon, a wild and domesticated bird having a heavy body and short legs. In literature, however, you frequently see dove referred to as a symbol of peace. So within literature and poetry, when we talk about denotation, you need to know that certain words would have a symbolism, would have something referred to. If you don't read often, you would not know these things, so it's good to read and build your general knowledge. Function of personification. Personification gives a deeper meaning to the literary text, poems, or pieces of writing. It adds vividness to expressions as we always look at the world from a human perspective. It brings inanimate things to life so that their nature and actions are understood in a better way. It is easier for us to relate to something that is human or possesses human traits. It encourages us to develop a perspective that is new as well as creative. For example, the stars dance playfully in the moonlit sky. Stars can't dance, but humans can. So it just gives us a better description. It's more clear. It's more poetic. The popcorn leaped out of the bowl, meaning it popped out. It's all over the place. So it just gives that better description, which is more interesting and one can relate to. There are many, many other examples of personification. You could be asked to identify personification within poetry or within literature. You could be asked to explain what is meant by the poetic device. So make sure that you go look at examples and know the meaning of personification. Dramatic and situational irony. Dramatic irony. Irony that is inherent in speeches or a situation of a drama and is understood by the audience but not grasped by the characters in the play. That's called dramatic irony. The example for that: two people are engaged to be married, but the audience knows that the man is planning to run away with another woman. In a scary movie, the character walks into a house and the audience knows the killer is in the house. But the character doesn't know that. So that's the suspense that builds up and causes a dramatic experience for everyone. Situational irony, on the other hand, is a literary device that you can easily identify in literary works. Simply, it occurs when incongruity appears between expectations of something to happen and what actually happens instead. For example, Rolf wakes up late and thinks he is going to be late for school. After rushing around to get dressed, he realizes it's Saturday. So that's situational irony. You would be asked probably to give examples of these two different types of irony and also explaining their definitions. Within literature, you get 7 types of sarcasm. And these are the ones that you should know and maybe also even give examples for. Self-deprecating sarcasm. It is an overstated sense of inferiority and worthlessness. So you put it onto yourself. You would say, you're not good at something, you're not doing it well. So you're sarcastic. Or when you do something and somebody says, wow, you did an excellent job, and then you would break yourself down, you're sarcastic. So it's self-deprecating. Brooding sarcasm. The speaker utters something polite, however, the tone of his speech has a marked bitterness in it. So even though you say something nice, you mean the opposite. Deadpan sarcasm. It is expressed without emotion or laughter, making it difficult for the listener to judge whether the speaker is joking or mocking you. So you don't know. You just don't have an idea. What did he mean by that when he said that? So that makes it very difficult for the person itself. Polite sarcasm. A speaker is said to have delivered a polite sarcasm when his listeners only get to realize that his kind remark was a sarcastic one after they had given it some thought. So many times when you would sit and you would think of an event or a situation that occurred, and only after you would like, gee, but that person actually was being sarcastic. They didn't mean it so nice. But you don't realize it at the instant it happens. Obnoxious sarcasm, as the word says it, makes people feel like punching the speaker in the face. It's not very funny and it gets under your skin. You're obnoxious. You say it as it is, straightforward. You don't care what the people think around you. Manic sarcasm. This type of sarcasm is delivered in an unnatural, happy mood that it makes the speaker look like he has gone crazy. And then raging sarcasm. This kind of sarcasm relies mainly on exaggeration and violent threats. Okay, purpose of the epigram used in poetry. Clearly, the reasons for using epigrams are plentiful. They cause the reader or listener to think a bit more about the statement being made. They are examples of pure humor. They all leave an impression. Many of them, whether through humor or blatant statements, are making a commentary on some sort of issue, whether it be political, social, religious, or just a day-to-day life. For example, I can resist everything but temptation. How ironic. Homographic pun. Homographic pun uses words that are spelled the same but sound different. These puns are often written rather than spoken, as they briefly trick the reader into reading the wrong sound. For example, you can tune a guitar, but you can't tune a fish unless you play bass or bass. In this case, tuna fish is a homophonic pun because it is a homonym for tune A. The word bass, though, functions as a homographic pun in that the word bass, produced with a long A, bass, refers to a type of instrument, while bass, pronounced as a short, is a type of fish, bass and bass. Examples: it isn't fair that every girl is not fair, meaning fairness and light-colored skin. My girlfriend criticized my apartment, so I knocked her flat. Apartment and flat is for the same thing. A dog having puppies on the sidewalk is considered to be littering. When dogs have puppies, you call it a litter of puppies. When it's on the sidewalk and you mess about, you are littering. So if you interpret it like that, it could be quite funny within writing. Euphemism. It is a polite expression used in a place of words or phrases that otherwise might be considered harsh or unpleasant to hear. That's the clear definition. Examples, so you would be expected to identify euphemism within poetry or literature, and you could be expected to give examples of your own or to give the definition. Examples: fell off the back of a truck instead of stolen. So he stole something, you could say it fell off the truck, so it's lighter, it's not as harsh. Ethnic cleansing is a softer way in saying that there was genocide. Turn a trick instead of engage in prostitution. So instead of saying that there was prostitution going on, they turned a trick. Negative patient outcome instead of dead, or kicked the bucket, passed away, are all ways of saying somebody is dead. Relocation center instead of prison camp, and collateral damage instead of accidental deaths. So there are many, many examples that one could use, and again, we use these within poetry and literature to make our writing more vivid, more interesting, and to capture the reader's attention. Antithesis. Antithesis is the literal meaning of opposite. It is a rhetorical device in which two opposite ideas are put together in a sentence to achieve a contrasting effect. It emphasizes the idea of contrast by parallel structures of the contrasted phrases or clauses. For example, the structure of phrases and clauses are similar in order to draw the attention of the listeners or the readers. The example given here: setting foot on the moon may be a small step for a man, but a giant leap for mankind. Hyperbole. It is a figure of speech that involves an exaggeration of ideas for the sake of emphasis. It is a device that we employ in our day-to-day speech. For instance, when you meet a friend after a long time, you say, "It's been ages since I last saw you." You may not have met him for 3 or 4 hours or a day, but the use of the word ages exaggerates this statement to add emphasis to your weight. Therefore, a hyperbole is an unreal exaggeration to emphasize the real situation. Some other common hyperbole examples are given below. My grandmother is as old as the hills. Your suitcase weighs a ton. She is as heavy as an elephant. I'm dying of shame. And again, for the exams and for assignments, you might be expected to identify hyperbole within the writing, or you would be expected to give the definition and give your own examples. Okay, and that's it. Just one thing that I'd like to emphasize looking at assignments and previous exams is that please look at the marks allocated per question. If your question says 20 marks. Make sure that you can mention 20 things. If you write only 5 things, you cannot get 20 marks for that question. So you will lose those marks. Please make sure. I'm more than willing to get back to you if you SMS me with any questions or anything that you need to know. I'll gladly help you in clearing it up and in explaining it to you. Thank you and good luck.